Retire early.
Retire early.
Retire early.
Retire early.
Retire early.
Early retirement.
Retire early.
If you are in your 30s and have had a bad day at work, I'm sure you must have thought about accumulating enough money and saying goodbye to your job today itself. Did that thought ever cross your mind? I'm sure it must have. But the fact that you may not have achieved financial independence today may have forced you to stick to your job. So, is it possible to retire early? Is it possible to achieve financial independence early in your 50s? Hi, I'm Shalini Gera, Certified Financial Planner. We welcome you to yet another School of Thought. But before that, let's understand what is the meaning of retiring early or financial independence. Retiring early doesn't mean that you leave your job today itself and move to a vacation and live your life over there sipping margaritas. No. Retiring early or financial independence means that you are able to generate a sufficient corpus which will no longer require you to have a dependence on your job, and the monthly income that you are able to withdraw from the corpus generated is sufficient to sustain you from today till the age of your 80 for males or 85 for females. That is financial independence. Let me share a real life example. A few years back, I met a woman, 45 years of age. She was working for a software development company, had one kid, and had three goals, including retiring, secondly, ensuring that she is in a position to give a good education to her child as per his requirements, and thirdly, she is also able to generate an emergency fund for herself. Put together, all of the goals required that she should be in a position to have 8.8 crore rupees by the time she retires and by the time the kid's education goal is due. And for that, she needs to ensure that she has about 1.96 crore invested at the rate of 12% per annum in order to generate this corpus and also to generate a monthly income which is sufficient for her expenses at the time of her retirement. Through diligent investing, she has been able to generate this corpus, which means that she is now in a position to retire early. She chooses to work for an organization because she wishes to do so, because she likes working, not because she is tied to her job in order to provide for a monthly living. That is financial independence. Very much possible. How can you retire early? So retirement early can be described through the FIRE method. FIRE simply means financial independence, retire early. This is a two-step process which includes, first of all, investing, and secondly, cutting down on your expenses. Investments. Does it mean that you go and invest in a fixed deposit today? You have to ensure that you beat the figures of inflation. You must ensure that you are investing in assets such that the portfolio is generating more than 14% per annum. Why do I say 14%? Because the average CPI in India has been 7.5%. But the inflation figures which are actually hitting you and me are much higher than that. The average food inflation in India has been 6.5%. Average fuel inflation in India has been 12.5%. The average medical inflation has been 14%. The average inflation figure for education is 11% in India. So your investments have to beat these assets in order to give you a positive real return out of your investments. Going back to the FD example, also remember that most of you would be taxed at a rate of 30% per annum. So if the FD is giving you 6% per annum, remove a 30% chunk for your taxes out of that and you are left with a net 4.2% post-tax return. So FD no longer is a judicious asset class. In fact, you will have to ensure that you are investing a significant amount of your investments into equity. In order to understand what a good portfolio should look like, do have a look at my earlier video which I made on my portfolio, where I disclose what is the asset allocation that I have gone for in various asset classes including equity, debt, gold, and what are the returns that I am generating out of my overall portfolio. Now that we've understood where not to invest, where to invest, it is also important to understand what is the monthly amount that is to be invested. So the FIRE method requires that you should be dedicating 50 to 70% of your monthly income towards your investments. Which brings me to the second point, cut down on your expenses. One good way to achieve 50% of your income as an investment figure is to strongly cut down on your expenses. You think it's not possible? Let me give you a guideline of ways through which you can actually cut down on your expenses drastically. One good way is to consider renting a house rather than actually buying a house. In that way, instead of paying a 1 lakh rupee EMI for a 1 crore house, you can still afford to live in that house, but instead you will have to rent it at a 50,000 rupees rent per month. Secondly, instead of buying a luxury car, consider buying a pre-owned good condition car. Consider getting a public transportation instead of utilizing your own car. Next, consider blocking all of your OTT subscriptions that you are heavily binging upon after your work. Rather, utilize this good amount of time to read or to upskill yourself and generate a side source of income as well. Another good way of cutting down on your expenses is to cook more and eat more at home rather than splurging outside. All of these methods put together can have a 30% reduced effect on your monthly expenses. Now let's understand what is the actual impact of cutting down your expenses on your retiring age. So for that, let's utilize this retirement calculator. For an example, I've put your current age as 30, the retirement age is at 50, and the life expectancy, which is 80 years for average males in India. If the current expenses are 1 lakh rupees per month, and the inflation figure is 7%, where I've estimated the pre-retirement portfolio returns to be 12% and post-retirement portfolio returns to be 10%, the corpus which is required to retire at the age of 50 is 10 crore rupees. For this person will have to ensure that they are investing either 1 lakh rupees per month through an SIP or 95 lakh rupees in the form of a lump sum at these given rates. Difficult, isn't it? Now let's understand what is the impact of reducing these expenses. If these expenses are reduced to 75,000 per month, here is a drastic reduction in the amount of corpus that will be required to retire early. The 10 crore corpus earlier has been reduced to 7.6 crore. And in order to generate this corpus, a 77,000 rupees of an SIP or a lump sum of 71 lakh rupees at the given rates is required. Slightly more achievable, isn't it? The second impact of reducing your expenses is that earlier, where 3 lakh rupees were only available to be invested every single year, now the same amount has been increased to 6 lakh rupees, enabling you to retire earlier, much more possible. So that was our School on Thought on enabling you to retire early in your 50s. Do let us know on how you found our content. Please do let us know on what other relevant financial content you would want us to talk about. If you like this video, please do subscribe to it, do share it with your friends, and do like it. It does help us a lot. We will keep on catching you with more such financially relevant content. Till then, bye-bye.